Most people misunderstand avoidant individuals. They assume that love should always look warm, expressive, and obvious. They believe that if someone truly loves you, they will constantly seek closeness, communicate perfectly, and make their feelings known every single day. But the truth is that an avoidant person experiences love differently. Their heart may feel deeply connected, while their nervous system is simultaneously urging them to create distance. This is why many people miss the clearest signs of authentic love from an avoidant. They look for traditional expressions, while ignoring the profound internal battles taking place beneath the surface. Authentic love begins when self-protection starts losing its grip. An avoidant person has spent years learning that dependence is dangerous. Somewhere along the way, vulnerability became associated with pain. Trust became associated with disappointment. Emotional exposure became associated with risk. As a result, they built walls, not because they wanted to reject love, but because they wanted to survive emotionally. When authentic love enters their life, something remarkable happens. The walls do not disappear overnight. Instead, they begin to crack. They start allowing you access to parts of themselves that few people have ever seen. They reveal fears they usually hide. They share memories they rarely discuss. They become willing to let you witness imperfections they once worked hard to conceal. This is not weakness. This is courage. A person who fears vulnerability but chooses vulnerability anyway is demonstrating one of the purest forms of love imaginable. Love is not measured by how comfortable someone feels opening up. Love is measured by what they are willing to risk opening up for. When an avoidant genuinely loves you, they begin choosing connection despite discomfort. That distinction changes everything. Many people believe that love feels safe from the beginning, yet some of the deepest forms of love require walking directly through fear. An avoidant who feels authentic love may still experience anxiety around intimacy. They may still need space at times. They may still struggle with emotional expression. But pay attention to what happens after the struggle. Do they come back? Do they reconnect? Do they make efforts to repair distance? Because authentic love always moves toward connection eventually. Their nervous system may pull them away temporarily, but their heart keeps guiding them back. This pattern reveals something powerful. You are no longer viewed as a threat to their independence. You are becoming a source of emotional safety. And emotional safety is one of the greatest gifts an avoidant can offer another human being. Another sign of authentic love appears when they begin including you in their future. Avoidant individuals often live in emotional self-sufficiency. They focus on handling life alone. They create plans independently. They rely primarily on themselves. But genuine love slowly changes that mindset. They begin using words like we instead of I. They discuss future possibilities. They imagine experiences that involve your presence. They start building mental pictures that include both of you. Why does this matter? Because the future is where commitment lives. When someone places you inside their vision of tomorrow, they are revealing what their heart values today. Authentic love also reveals itself through curiosity. An avoidant who truly loves you becomes interested in understanding your emotional world. Not because they are trying to control you, not because they feel obligated, but because your happiness begins to matter to them. Your struggles matter. Your dreams matter. Your fears matter. Your healing matters. This shift is profound. For perhaps the first time, they begin looking beyond self-protection and toward shared emotional growth. Love creates that transformation. Love expands awareness. Love broadens perspective. Love invites people into deeper levels of understanding. And perhaps the strongest sign of authentic love appears during conflict. Anyone can stay connected when everything feels easy. The true test arrives when tension enters the relationship, when misunderstandings happen, when emotions become uncomfortable, when fears become activated. At these moments, avoidant tendencies often intensify. Distance feels tempting. Withdrawal feels familiar. Silence feels safe. Yet authentic love introduces a new possibility. Instead of running permanently, they begin learning how to stay. Maybe imperfectly, maybe slowly, maybe awkwardly, but they stay. They engage. They communicate. They try. And trying matters. Because relationships are not built by perfection. They are built by willingness. A willingness to understand. A willingness to forgive. A willingness to grow. A willingness to remain present, even when every old survival instinct says otherwise. This is where real transformation begins. You see, authentic love is not simply an emotion. It is a decision repeated over and over again, a decision to move toward connection, a decision to choose courage over fear, a decision to trust despite uncertainty, a decision to remain open despite past wounds. When an avoidant person starts making those decisions consistently, you are witnessing something extraordinary. You are witnessing love becoming stronger than protection. And that is one of the most beautiful transformations a human being can experience. Never measure love solely by how loudly it speaks. Sometimes the deepest love speaks quietly. Sometimes it reveals itself through effort rather than words. Sometimes it appears through small acts of trust that most people overlook. Look for courage. Look for consistency. Look for vulnerability. Look for growth. Because when an avoidant begins choosing these things with you, they are revealing something far more meaningful than temporary emotion. They are revealing the presence of authentic love. And authentic love is not found in grand promises. It is found in repeated choices. The choice to return. The choice to trust. The choice to stay. The choice to grow. The choice to love. Those choices, repeated over time, become undeniable proof that what exists between two people is real, meaningful, and powerful enough to transform both lives forever. One of the strongest signs that an avoidant person feels authentic love for you is when they begin lowering their emotional walls without being forced. This may sound simple, but for someone with avoidant tendencies, it represents a profound internal shift. These walls were not built overnight. They were constructed through years of experiences, disappointments, fears, and learned patterns of self-protection. To understand the significance of those walls coming down, you must first understand why they were built in the first place. Many avoidant individuals learned early in life that emotional dependence felt unsafe, whether through inconsistent support, emotional neglect, criticism, or painful relationship experiences. They developed a belief that relying on others could eventually lead to disappointment. As a result, they became experts at self-sufficiency. They learned to handle problems alone, process emotions privately, and maintain control by keeping others at a comfortable distance. Because of this, vulnerability often feels dangerous to them. Opening up emotionally can trigger fear, anxiety, and discomfort. It requires stepping into territory that their mind has labeled as risky for years. This is why authentic love is not measured by how quickly an avoidant person becomes vulnerable. Instead, it is measured by their willingness to move toward vulnerability despite feeling uncomfortable. When authentic love begins to grow, something starts changing beneath the surface. The walls that once seemed permanent become less important than the connection they are building with you. They begin sharing pieces of themselves that they normally keep hidden. They might tell you about past struggles, personal fears, childhood experiences, or insecurities they rarely discuss with anyone else. These moments may seem small, but they carry enormous meaning. An avoidant person does not reveal their inner world casually. Every act of openness requires trust. Every personal disclosure represents a choice to let someone see behind the protective image they have carefully maintained. When they voluntarily share these deeper parts of themselves, they are showing that your presence feels safer than their isolation. What makes this even more meaningful is that genuine vulnerability cannot be demanded. Pressure often causes avoidant individuals to retreat further into self-protection. Love grows when they feel accepted rather than controlled. It grows when they believe they can be imperfect without being judged. It grows when they sense that they are valued for who they truly are, rather than who others expect them to become. This is why patience is so powerful. Emotional walls rarely collapse all at once. Instead, they come down brick by brick. One honest conversation, one shared fear, one moment of trust, one act of emotional courage at a time. The process may appear slow from the outside, but internally it represents tremendous growth. True love creates an environment where fear gradually loses its power. The avoidant person begins realizing that vulnerability does not always lead to rejection. They discover that being known is not as dangerous as they once believed. They learn that connection can coexist with freedom, and intimacy does not require losing themselves. When someone who has spent years protecting their heart starts opening it willingly, you are witnessing something extraordinary. You are seeing trust replace fear. You are seeing courage overcome old defenses. Most importantly, you are seeing a person choose connection over protection. That choice is one of the clearest signs that authentic love is taking root, growing stronger, and transforming the way they relate to both themselves and the people they care about. Another powerful sign that an avoidant person feels authentic love for you is their consistent desire to return and reconnect after periods of distance. This behavior is often misunderstood because many people focus only on the moments when the avoidant pulls away. They see the silence, the space, or the temporary withdrawal and immediately assume that love is absent. But when you look deeper, you may discover something very different taking place beneath the surface. For an avoidant individual, emotional closeness can create an internal conflict. Part of them desires connection, intimacy, and companionship, just like anyone else. Yet another part of them may become overwhelmed when that connection starts feeling too intense. Their nervous system can interpret closeness as vulnerability, and vulnerability can trigger old fears that have existed for years. As a result, they sometimes create distance, not because they have stopped caring, but because they are trying to regulate emotions that feel difficult to manage. This is where the true sign of authentic love becomes visible. The important question is not whether they occasionally need space. The important question is what happens after that space. Do they return? Do they reach out? Do they reestablish connection? Do they make efforts to bridge the distance? When an avoidant person genuinely loves you, there is often an invisible force pulling them back toward the relationship. Even when fear encourages them to retreat temporarily, their emotional bond continues to exist. Their heart remains connected, even while their mind is attempting to create distance. This creates a pattern that reveals much more than words ever could. They may need time alone, but they eventually seek contact again. They may become quiet for a period, but they return to the conversation. They may struggle with emotional intensity, but they continue finding their way back to the relationship. That return matters. Anyone can stay connected when everything feels easy. The deeper test occurs when fear becomes active. Authentic love reveals itself when a person repeatedly chooses connection despite their discomfort. Think about the significance of that choice. Every time an avoidant returns after withdrawing, they are overcoming internal resistance. They are moving beyond old survival habits. They are challenging patterns that once convinced them that distance was safer than closeness. That process requires courage. It requires growth. It requires genuine emotional investment. People do not repeatedly fight through internal fears for relationships that hold no meaning to them. They make those efforts because the connection has become valuable. Authentic love also changes the quality of their return. Over time, you may notice that they come back with greater awareness. They become more willing to explain their feelings. They make stronger efforts to communicate. They begin recognizing how their withdrawal affects the relationship. Rather than pretending nothing happened, they gradually develop a desire to repair, reconnect, and strengthen the bond. This is emotional maturity in action. Love inspires growth because it gives people a reason to become more than they were yesterday. Many people mistakenly believe that love is proven by never creating distance. In reality, every person has moments when they need space, reflection, or emotional recovery. The difference is that authentic love always seeks a path back to connection. The avoidant who truly cares does not disappear forever. They do not continuously move further away. Instead, they keep finding reasons to return. They keep choosing the relationship, despite the fears that sometimes arise within them. Over time, these repeated returns create something beautiful. Trust begins to grow. Emotional safety increases. The relationship develops resilience. What once felt fragile becomes stronger, because both people learn that temporary distance does not have to mean permanent separation. When an avoidant consistently comes back, reaches out, reconnects, and chooses the relationship again and again, you are witnessing one of the clearest signs of authentic love. You are seeing a heart that values connection enough to overcome fear, and that choice, repeated over time, speaks louder than almost any declaration ever could. One of the most meaningful signs that an avoidant person feels authentic love for you is when, They begin sharing their vulnerable thoughts, fears, and insecurities. This may not seem dramatic from the outside, especially if you are someone who naturally expresses emotions. But for an avoidant individual, vulnerability is often one of the hardest things they can offer another person. It requires them to step beyond years of emotional self-protection and allow someone to see parts of themselves they usually keep hidden. Most avoidant people have spent a significant portion of their lives learning how to appear strong, independent, and emotionally self-sufficient. They often become skilled at handling challenges privately. They process pain internally. They hide fears behind confidence. They conceal insecurities beneath a calm exterior. To the outside world, they may appear composed and unaffected, even when deep emotions are present beneath the surface. This is why vulnerability carries such tremendous significance. When an avoidant begins sharing their inner world with you, they are doing something that feels deeply uncomfortable to them. They are stepping into territory that their mind has long associated with risk. They are allowing another person access to thoughts and feelings that were once protected, behind emotional walls. Authentic love creates the conditions for this transformation. As trust grows, the avoidant person gradually begins revealing aspects of themselves they normally keep private. They may talk about fears of rejection, fears of failure, fears of abandonment, or fears of not being enough. They may discuss painful memories, personal regrets, or moments in life that shaped their view of relationships. These conversations are not random. They represent a growing belief that you are someone who can be trusted with their truth. Trust is the foundation of vulnerability. Without trust, people hide. With trust, people reveal. When an avoidant starts sharing vulnerable emotions, they are demonstrating that the relationship has become emotionally significant. They no longer see you as someone who exists only on the surface level of their life. They are inviting you into deeper emotional territory. This invitation is a powerful act of courage. Many people think courage means appearing fearless. In reality, courage often means feeling fear and moving forward anyway. An avoidant who reveals their insecurities is doing exactly that. They are risking judgment. They are risking misunderstanding. They are risking emotional exposure. Yet they choose openness because the connection has become more valuable than complete. Self-protection. Another important sign is that their vulnerability becomes increasingly authentic over time. At first, they may share only small details. They might reveal minor concerns or personal opinions. As trust continues to develop, they begin discussing deeper emotional experiences. The conversations become more honest. The emotional depth increases. Their willingness to be seen grows stronger. This process rarely happens all at once. It unfolds gradually. Like a door opening 1 inch at a time, each moment of honesty creates space for the next. Every positive experience with vulnerability teaches them that emotional openness does not always lead to pain. They begin learning that genuine connection can be safe. This lesson changes everything. For perhaps the first time, they start experiencing relationships not as threats to their independence, but as sources of support, understanding, and acceptance. They discover that sharing fears does not make them weak. They discover that admitting insecurities does not diminish their worth. They discover that being fully known can feel liberating rather than dangerous. When an avoidant person begins revealing their hidden thoughts, private fears, and deepest insecurities, they are offering one of the most valuable gifts they possess, their authentic self. They are allowing you to see beyond the mask of independence and into the heart beneath it. That level of openness does not emerge from casual interest. It grows from trust, emotional safety, and genuine love. And when it appears, it is often one of the clearest signs that their feelings for you have become deeply real and profoundly meaningful. One of the clearest indicators that an avoidant person feels authentic love for you is when they begin including you in their future plans and long-term conversations. This may seem like a small detail at first, but for someone who has spent years prioritizing independence and emotional self-reliance, it represents a profound shift in the way they view both relationships and their own life journey. Avoidant individuals often become accustomed to navigating life alone. They learn to depend on themselves, make decisions independently, and maintain a strong sense of personal control. Because of this, They may naturally focus on individual goals, personal ambitions, and private plans. Their future often revolves around what they intend to accomplish on their own, rather than what they hope to build with another person. This is why future-oriented thinking becomes such a powerful sign of authentic love. When an avoidant begins discussing future experiences that include you, something significant is happening beneath the surface. They are no longer viewing the relationship as a temporary part of their present life. Instead, they are mentally creating space for you in the chapters that have not yet been written. This is not merely about making plans. It is about making room. There is a profound difference between enjoying someone's company today and envisioning them as part of tomorrow. Authentic love bridges that gap. It inspires people to imagine shared experiences, mutual growth, and a future that is enriched by another person's presence. You may notice this shift in subtle ways at first. They might mention a future trip and naturally include you in the conversation. They may talk about goals they want to achieve together. They may discuss events months away and assume your participation without hesitation. Perhaps they begin speaking in terms of we rather than I. These small changes reveal a major transformation. The relationship is becoming integrated into their vision of life. For an avoidant person, this is especially meaningful because commitment often triggers vulnerability. The future contains uncertainty. It requires trust. It requires believing that another person will remain present and supportive over time. These are concepts that may have felt uncomfortable or even threatening in the past. Yet authentic love encourages them to move beyond those fears. They begin seeing partnership not as a loss of freedom, but as an expansion of possibility. Instead of viewing connection as something that limits them, they start recognizing how meaningful relationships can strengthen their life experience. Love changes perspective. It shifts attention from individual survival to shared growth. It transforms questions like, "What do I want?" into questions like, "What can we build together?" This transformation is often gradual. An avoidant person rarely wakes up one day and instantly abandons every protective habit. Instead, they slowly become more comfortable imagining a future that includes emotional closeness. They begin allowing themselves to hope. They begin allowing themselves to invest emotionally in outcomes that involve another person. Hope is powerful. People do not invest in futures they do not value. When someone repeatedly includes you in their plans, dreams, and long-term vision, they are revealing where their emotional energy is flowing. Their actions are saying, "I see you here. I want you here. I am considering a future that feels more meaningful because you are part of it." This level of emotional investment cannot be forced. It develops naturally when trust deepens and love grows stronger. The most beautiful aspect of this sign is that it demonstrates both affection and commitment. Affection says, "I care about you today." Commitment says, "I am thinking about tomorrow with you in it." Authentic love contains both. When an avoidant person begins speaking about future goals, future experiences, future adventures, and future possibilities that include your presence, they are doing far more than making plans. They are opening their heart to the idea of a shared life. They are allowing connection to become part of their vision. And in doing so, they are revealing one of the strongest signs that their feelings have evolved into something genuine, meaningful, and deeply rooted in authentic love. One of the most overlooked signs that an avoidant person feels authentic love for you is when they begin making genuine efforts to understand your emotional needs. Many people assume that love is proven through grand gestures, constant communication, or dramatic displays of affection. While those things can certainly be meaningful, authentic love often reveals itself in a much deeper way. It appears when someone becomes sincerely invested in understanding what matters to your heart. For an avoidant individual, this shift is especially significant. Avoidant people often spend much of their lives focused on emotional self-management. Their attention is frequently directed toward maintaining independence, regulating discomfort, and preserving a sense of personal control. Because of this, they may not naturally prioritize emotional discussions or deeply explore the feelings of others in the beginning stages of a relationship. That does not mean they are incapable of caring. It simply means that emotional awareness within relationships may require growth, trust, and intentional effort. When authentic love develops, something begins to change. The avoidant person starts paying closer attention to your emotional experience. They become curious about what makes you feel valued, supported, respected, and secure. They begin asking questions they may never have asked before. They start noticing emotional patterns, remembering important details, and considering how their actions affect your well-being. This curiosity is important because genuine understanding cannot exist without genuine interest. People naturally invest time and energy into what they truly value. When an avoidant person consistently seeks to understand your feelings, they are demonstrating that your emotional world has become important to them. They are moving beyond surface-level interaction and stepping into deeper emotional connection. This effort may appear in small ways at first. They might remember something that upset you weeks ago and check on how you are feeling now. They may ask questions about your experiences rather than immediately changing the subject. They may become more attentive when you express concerns, even if emotional conversations still feel somewhat uncomfortable for them. These moments matter. They reveal a willingness to grow. Authentic love does not require perfection. It requires effort. The willingness to understand another human being is one of the greatest expressions of care that exists. It requires patience, attention, and empathy. It requires looking beyond your own perspective and genuinely attempting to see life through someone else's eyes. For an avoidant person, this process often represents a major transformation. Instead of automatically retreating from emotional topics, they begin leaning into them. Instead of viewing emotions as problems to avoid, they start recognizing them as important forms of communication. Instead of focusing solely on maintaining distance from discomfort, they begin prioritizing connection. This shift is powerful because it reflects a deeper emotional investment. Love changes what people pay attention to. When someone truly cares, your happiness starts mattering. Your fears matter. Your disappointments matter. Your victories matter. Your dreams matter. The avoidant person may not always know the perfect words to say. They may still have moments when emotional conversations feel challenging. They may occasionally struggle to express empathy in the ways you expect. But authentic love is not measured by flawless execution. It is measured by sincere intention. Are they trying to understand? Are they listening more closely? Are they making adjustments when they realize something is important to you? Are they showing a growing desire to meet your emotional needs rather than dismiss them? If the answer is yes, then something meaningful is taking place. One of the most beautiful aspects of authentic love is that it inspires personal growth. People become willing to learn skills they never considered before. They become open to perspectives they once ignored. They begin expanding emotionally because the relationship has become valuable enough to justify the effort. When an avoidant person actively seeks to understand your emotions, respects your needs, and genuinely tries to support your well-being, they are demonstrating far more than simple affection. They are showing emotional commitment. They are revealing that your inner world matters to them. And when someone's heart becomes invested in understanding yours, it is often one of the strongest signs that authentic love has taken root and continues to grow stronger with time. Perhaps the most powerful sign that an avoidant person feels authentic love for you is when they begin choosing connection over self-protection during difficult moments. This is where love is truly tested. Anyone can feel close when everything is going smoothly. Anyone can enjoy connection when there is no conflict, no uncertainty, and no emotional discomfort. But the real measure of emotional growth and genuine love appears when challenges arise. For an avoidant individual, difficult moments often activate old survival patterns. When emotions become intense, their first instinct may be to withdraw, shut down, or create distance. This response is not necessarily a reflection of how much they care. In many cases, it is a deeply ingrained coping mechanism that developed long before the distant relationship ever existed. Avoidant individuals often learned that emotional safety came from relying on themselves. When relationships became complicated, they discovered that retreating felt easier than confronting vulnerability. Distance felt safer than exposure. Silence felt safer than difficult conversations. This is why choosing connection during uncomfortable moments carries such extraordinary significance. When authentic love begins to take root, the avoidant person gradually starts making different choices. The fear may still exist. The discomfort may still be present. The urge to withdraw may still appear. But despite those feelings, they begin moving toward the relationship rather than away from it. This is a remarkable transformation. Imagine someone who has spent years believing that emotional distance is the safest option. Now imagine that same person deciding to stay engaged during conflict, uncertainty, or emotional tension. That choice requires courage. It requires self-awareness. Most importantly, it requires genuine emotional investment. Love motivates people to do things that fear alone could never accomplish. You may notice this shift during disagreements. Instead of disappearing completely, they remain part of the conversation. Instead of shutting down for extended periods, they make efforts to communicate. Instead of protecting themselves at all costs, they become willing to work through discomfort together. These moments often happen quietly. There may be no dramatic declaration, no grand speech, no perfect explanation. Yet their actions reveal something profound. They are choosing the relationship. That choice speaks volumes. Authentic love does not eliminate fear. It simply becomes more important than fear. An avoidant person who truly loves you begins realizing that protecting themselves from every uncomfortable emotion also prevents them from experiencing deeper connection. They start understanding that meaningful relationships require openness, patience, and mutual effort. This realization changes the way they respond to challenges. Rather than viewing conflict as a reason to escape, they begin seeing it as an opportunity to strengthen understanding. Rather than treating vulnerability as a weakness, they start recognizing it as a pathway to intimacy. Rather than assuming that emotional discomfort signals danger, they learn that discomfort can be part of growth. Growth is rarely comfortable. Every meaningful transformation requires stepping beyond familiar habits. For an avoidant person, choosing connection over self-protection is one of the most significant forms of growth possible. It demonstrates trust. It demonstrates commitment. It demonstrates emotional maturity. Most importantly, it demonstrates love. Because love is not merely about how someone feels when circumstances are easy. Love reveals its true depth when people continue choosing each other during moments that challenge them. When an avoidant person stays present during difficult conversations, makes efforts to repair misunderstandings, takes responsibility for their actions, and works toward reconnection instead of permanent withdrawal, they are showing you something incredibly valuable. They are showing that the relationship matters enough to fight old patterns. That is not a small achievement. That is a powerful act of courage. The strongest relationships are not built on the absence of difficulties. They are built on the willingness to face those difficulties together. When an avoidant person repeatedly chooses connection over self-protection, they are demonstrating one of the clearest signs of authentic love. They are proving that the bond has become more important than the walls they once relied upon, and that their desire for genuine connection is finally becoming stronger than their fear of vulnerability.